This is my TNA Victory Road 2010 pay-per-view review. As far as this pay-per-view from TNA last night, what I gotta say about it is the second half of the pay-per-view was very good. The last 4 matches of the pay-per-view were all pretty good. The ending of the main event sure was pretty weak, and you had a pretty good thrown together tag match with Rob Terry and Samoa Joe teaming up to take on AJ Styles and Kazarian. Now, the first half of the pay-per-view was pretty weak, which kind of hurt the pay-per-view overall as far as the rating for it. But it is still one of the pay-per-views I will recommend from TNA for fans to check out because the second half was good. And as far as my ratings for this pay-per-view, I gave 4 matches above 3 stars and 1, 2, and 3, 4 stars. So there was more good on this pay-per-view than there was bad. But there were some flaws on the pay-per-view nonetheless, as far as the first half of the pay-per-view. The first matchup was Kendrick versus Douglas Williams for the X Division Championship in an Ultimate X match. Now, this Ultimate X match, you could win either by submission or you could win by climbing the truss and grabbing the X Division Championship. And that was the one problem I kind of had with this match going into it. Now, it didn't turn out as bad as what I was expecting it to, but it would have been much better if TNA would have had this match just be a regular Ultimate X match where, obviously, you just have to climb up there and grab the X Division Championship. Or, actually, the way this match was going, because this match was pretty good with the, mat work they were doing, a good back-and-forth action between Douglas Williams and Kendrick in this match. And if this match was a submission match, I think this match would have been very good, and it would have been a little more enjoyable. And the one kind of flaw I kind of had with this match was that, going into it, obviously Douglas Williams, he was the guy that, is kind of afraid of heights, and they didn't really play off that as well as I thought they should have in this match. And as I said, the whole mixing in of another gimmick upon the Ultimate X match didn't turn out as bad as what I expected. I was expecting a complete clusterfuck and to be even worse than what it was, but it was actually not a bad match for what it was, I would say. And Douglas Williams, he wins the match via submission in a 2-star match. Like I said, was a little better than I was expecting considering the whole gimmick of a submission match added upon the Ultimate X match, but like I said, would have been more enjoyable if it was probably just a submission match because the mat work and stuff they did in this match and the technical stuff in this match was very entertaining. I would have preferred just seeing that type of match because that was pretty good. And the match kind of just ended a little too quick for me as well. Then the next matchup was Brother Ray versus Jesse Neal versus Brother Devon in a triple threat match. Now, this match, for the most part, for until the last minute of the match, was just a singles match with Brother Ray versus Jesse Neal. Devon was locked in the back in a locker room, obviously by Brother Ray. So it's just a singles match with Ray versus Jesse Neal. They went back and forth for a couple minutes, and during this match, you saw the ECW guys come out there. You saw Raven, you saw Stevie Richards, Rhino, and Tommy Dreamer out there. And they kind of, did the same thing, distracted Brother Ray again. Before Devon came out there, it was looking like Jesse Neal was going to pick up the victory after a spear, after distraction from the ECW guys. Then you hear Devon's music hit. He comes out there. You see him and Brother Ray stare down at each other. And it's looking like they're about to just attack Jesse Neal. They don't do that. They hit each other back with several strikes and punches. And they go after each other. Then Jesse Neal comes in there. He's looking like he's trying to pick up the, victory, a sneak victory right there. And the match ends with Brother Ray hitting the Bubba Bomb on Jesse Neal for the victory in a 1.5-star match. So unfortunately, they're continuing the whole thing with, the friction between Brother Ray and Devon, which is completely idiotic because even though I will say they have done everything they have as a tag team with TNA and within wrestling in general, the one last thing you want to see them do is feud with each other and try to be singles competitors. It's like, would you ever want to see the LOD back in the day? Would you want them to see them as singles competitors? No. And it's the same thing with Team 3D as well. You don't want to see that, and obviously, probably at some point they'll probably turn on Jesse Neal or something, hit the 3D on him, and they'll form back, and they'll probably be with the ECW group most likely. Then the next matchup was Angelina Love versus Madison Rayne and the TNA Knockouts title versus career match. And actually, for a change, this was actually going on pretty good knockouts match, pretty good women's match in TNA. It was actually pretty solid. But then the ending of the match just completely left a bad taste in my mouth, and it completely killed the match for me. Not only does the match end in disqualification, the match ends in disqualification, and the title changes. Obviously, going into the match, you already knew that. If someone interfered for Madison Rayne in this match, the title would change hands. Angelina Love wins the match that way. The end of the match comes when you see someone come out there you see a woman come out there on a motorcycle. It's got a motorcycle helmet on it, so you can't see who it is. Obviously, it's either Velvet Sky or Lacey Von Erich, mostly the Velvet Sky. And she comes out there, attacks Angelina Love, and the match ends in disqualification that way, which, for a change, it was going on being a pretty good women's match in TNA. Then that ending just completely killed it for me. And a title changing via disqualification, I hate that idea as well. So 1 star at best for that match. The ending just really killed it for me. Then the next matchup was probably the surprise of the night, because didn't expect this to be as good as what it ended up being. It was pretty much a random thrown together match. It was AJ Styles and Kazarian teaming up, taking on the to-be-announced team, which turned out to be Rob Terry and Samoa Joe. And, for a change, I actually got to say Rob Terry didn't do that bad in this match. They booked him very, very well in this match, where he wasn't in the match that much. And when he was, they kind of booked him okay, where when he was in there, he's pretty much, doing the typical generic big guy moves and stuff like that to AJ Styles and Kazarian, dominating them. Then Samoa Joe was in there most of the time, and you saw some good action with Samoa Joe and AJ Styles, Samoa Joe and Kazarian, and it was a very fun tag team match. And then the end of the match comes, you see Desmond Wolfe, he comes out there, interferes in the match, pulls Samoa Joe out of the ring, and then them two fight outside the ring. And then you see Rob Terry in the ring, you see behind him, on the apron, you see AJ Styles behind him. Then in front of him, you see Kazarian. Then AJ Styles hits the flying forearm to the back of Rob Terry. Rob Terry's kind of dazed. And then Kaz hits a springboard drop kick to him. Then Kazarian hits his springboard leg drop. Then AJ Styles picks the victory up after hitting the 450 to Rob Terry. So Kazarian and AJ Styles win this match to join Fortune. It was a pretty good tag match, pretty enjoyable. Kind of a random thrown together match, but it was enjoyable, I would say. 3 stars, very entertaining tag match right there. The next matchup was Matt Morgan versus Hernandez in a cage match. Now, going into this, I wasn't expecting much from it. I don't think anyone was. And I would say the cage match probably helped it, better than what it would have been as far as, if it was just a regular singles match, which isn't really saying much. The match wasn't that much of anything. Not much to talk about here. The end of the match comes when Matt Morgan, he handcuffs Hernandez to the top rope, and then he tries to escape the cage. And then when he's at the top of the cage escaping, Hernandez breaks loose of the handcuffs. You see him ram through the door, go to the floor, and Hernandez picks the victory up in this match to win the cage match between him and Matt Morgan, and a 1.5 star match. Just couldn't really get into this match at all. Then the next matchup was Ric Flair versus Jay Lethal, and I actually got to say this match was surprisingly better than I was expecting. I wasn't really expecting much from it. I wasn't expecting it to be a god-awful, like one of the worst matches ever, but it was a pretty solid match from these two. Good back-and-forth action between Jay Lethal and Ric Flair. Enjoyable match, glad they put over Jay Lethal in this match. Jay Lethal picks the victory up after putting Ric Flair in the figure 4 leg lock, and Ric Flair tapping out. So Ric Flair taps out to his own finisher in this match, which really put over Jay Lethal even more. So glad they're continuing to push with Jay Lethal. Glad they put him over, because I had a feeling that Ric Flair probably was going to win this match. Glad they didn't go that route and had Jay Lethal pick the victory up. Now, could Jay Lethal, could he be ever a future World Heavyweight Champion? I don't know. I don't really think so. He could be one of those guys that could be a good contender, or one of those guys that would be a top mid-carder, kind of teetering from time to time, contending for the world title. And just glad to see them continue the push of Jay Lethal. And Jay Lethal's really over with the crowd. 2 and 3/4 star match. Pretty entertaining match with Ric Flair and Jay Lethal. Then the next matchup was Beer Money versus the Madison Machineguns for the TNA World Tag Team Championships. This was to decide who would be the new tag team champions, as the tag team championships at that time were vacant. And this was a good tag match, really enjoyable. Now, There was only one problem I really had with this match, which was the false ending they had in this match. Well, not the false ending, but when they originally end the match in a double pinfall after James Storm spits beer in the referee's face, and Earl Hebner comes out there, and then you see a double pin. So, the match then gets restarted. So thankfully it didn't end with the whole double pin, and the titles would have still been vacant. But then the match gets restarted, and it kind of made the feeling like, when they did that type of ending, they probably wanted to make people think that with that ending, the Madison Machineguns weren't going to win the tag team titles. And they kind of had that feeling right there that the Beer Money is probably going to win, and the Madison Machineguns are going to get screwed out of the titles and not be given them again. Thankfully, that didn't happen. The Madison Machineguns won the tag team championships, finally, long overdue, after they hit the crossbody neckbreaker combo to Robert Roode in this match, in a 3.5-star match. Very good, fun tag match. The only problem I had with it was the one ending where they originally ended it and then restarted. I could have dealt without that. They could have scratched that and just had the match just end without that type of shenanigans and that type of thing. They could have done without that ending, but still a good tag match, and probably the match of the night. I kind of enjoyed this match and the next match kind of about equal, but I would say just because the Madison Machineguns finally won the tag titles and it was a good tag match, I would say that was the match of the night. The next matchup was Kurt Angle versus the Pope D'Angelo and Dinero in a contenders match. Very fun match between the Pope D'Angelo and Dinero and Kurt Angle here. Good back and forth action. Really enjoyed it. Kurt Angle picks the victory up after locking in the ankle lock in this match to the Pope D'Angelo and Dinero. He taps out in a 3.5-star match. A very fun match between those two. And then the main event was for the TNA World title and a 4-way match with Mr. Anderson versus Jeff Hardy versus Abyss versus RVD. And this is going on being a very fun main event. I really enjoyed this main event, but the ending, and not only the ending was kind of weak for me, but the match was too short. I thought this match should have been given another 5 or 10 minutes. They definitely had time if they wanted to, because the pay-per-view had at least another 13 or 14 minutes they could have went over if they wanted to, and had the match given about 5 or 10 more minutes, because it was fairly short for a world title match on a pay-per-view. It was probably like 12 or 13 minutes. Started off with, you saw them all ganging up on Abyss, then you saw some good stuff with Mr. Anderson and RVD. Jeff Hardy and RVD did some good stuff. Then the ending comes when Jeff Hardy hits the Swanton Bomb on Mr. Anderson, tries to go for the pin. Abyss gets on top of him. Then you see RVD hit the 5-star frog splash on top of all of them. Then he pins Mr. Anderson to retain the TNA World title in this match in a 3 1/4-star match. It was going on very good. It was probably going to be a great match. It was, had a stronger ending and probably was given more time. I would say if it had a stronger ending to this match and was given probably 5 or 10 minutes, it probably could have almost got to the range of a 4-star match, because it was going on being a very entertaining match. Just a little too short for a title match on a pay-per-view, in my opinion, and the ending was fairly weak. So, like I said, RVD retains the title in a 3 1/4-star match. Then, post-match, you see Abyss attack RVD. Then he gets his 2x4 with nails, tries to hit RVD with that. RVD rolls out of the ring, and that's the end of the pay-per-view with Abyss with that in his hand. And obviously with that, you're probably going to see RVD versus Abyss against each other at the Hard Justice pay-per-view, which it seems like the Hard Justice pay-per-view, they're going to have like stipulations and hardcore stipulations on almost all the matches on the pay-per-view, which they've done that in the past with Hard Justice. That's basically been the premise of the Hard Justice pay-per-view. So we'll probably see a match with RVD and Abyss, some type of stipulation match at the Hard Justice pay-per-view in August. And overall, I'll give this pay-per-view, I would give it a 7.25, maybe even a 7.5, because the second half was pretty strong with the pay-per-view. Now, like I said, it had some flaws with the pay-per-view, but, just because I gave, 4 matches, above 3 stars or higher than the 2 and 3/4-star Ric Flair and Jay Lethal. And like I said, there was more good on this pay-per-view than there was bad. So it's kind of like one of those pay-per-views where I'm not going to say it's a must-see, because the first half kind of hurt the pay-per-view quality overall. But if you do check it out, check out mainly the second half of the pay-per-view. And the only thing that is worth checking out the first half is the AJ Styles Kazarian match versus Samoa Joe and Rob Terry. And I actually forgot to mention something in that match. Post-match, Samoa Joe hits the Muscle Buster on Desmond Wolfe. So possibly might be seeing a Desmond Wolfe versus Samoa Joe match maybe at Hard Justice. Or they might just settle it on a upcoming Impact before Hard Justice. Nonetheless, it'd be great to see Desmond Wolfe and Samoa Joe against each other. So overall, I give this pay-per-view, I'll give it a 7.25, just because the second half was good, and there was more good on this pay-per-view than there was bad, but still it had some flaws on this pay-per-view, especially the first half, and the main event could have been stronger, but nonetheless, I would say a pretty good pay-per-view outing from TNA. It's probably one of the better TNA pay-per-views in a little while from TNA. It's probably one of the best ones of this year from TNA, so that's at least saying something, that at least it was a pretty solid pay-per-view outing from TNA. And like I said, if you check it out, check the second half mainly of the pay-per-view, because that's the best part of it. The first half is kind of passable. If you don't see anything on the first half of the pay-per-view, the first 5 matches, you're not really missing too much. And like I say, give it a 7.25. That's it for my TNA Victory Road 2010 pay-per-view review. Peace.